Hi guys, welcome. A little windy today, so hopefully the audio is okay, but what I'm going to show you today is how to turn trim like this, that is silver, into black. And this is an inexpensive way to do it. There are a variety of different ways to do it. Depending on the car, you might even be able to buy black trim from the manufacturer, like Mini or BMW sells it for the Mini Coopers, for example. This is from Amazon. This is a 3M vinyl wrap that is cut to 1.5 inches in this case. You can get this in a variety of widths. I would just recommend that you buy higher quality wrap. So this is 3M 2080, which is a higher quality wrap. There are a variety of manufacturers out there. I know like a Nosatec is very popular, 3M is very popular. You know, buy a better quality product. This is about 30 bucks for this whole roll, and this will do this car twice. So even if I screw it up, I've got more than enough to be able to do it. Like I said, you can buy it in a variety of widths on Amazon or a variety of other places, I'm sure too. So you just want something that is slightly wider than what you actually have to cover. So I've got like 1.25 inches here that I have to cover. I've got 1.5 inches piece of vinyl. In terms of tools, we're gonna need a couple things. The one that really you can't go without is you need a knife that is very sharp that you can use to trim the vinyl. Most vinyl and PPF installers use knives like this. So this is an Olfa knife. Olfa is a brand name. You can get these snap blade knives from a variety of manufacturers. This is a 9mm width. And I will say that it makes sense to invest in a quality one. I have a Milwaukee one that I like. There's a Husky one that's available at Home Depot that's actually fairly nice. Olfa is kind of the standard when it comes to professionals that are doing this day in and day out, whether it's tinting, vinyl, PPF, whatever it may be. Olfa is a Japanese brand, and it's Japanese steel, and their knives just hold an edge really well, and the blades last a long time, and they work really, really well. I like these black blades, which have a, it's like a non-stick coating on them. I just find that they last longer and they're good to use. They're not that much more expensive than going to, you know, Lowe's and buying a pack of Stanley blades or whatever. But I would recommend invest in a good knife. Something like this Olfa you can have for a long, long time, and they're not that expensive. This is like 20 bucks on Amazon, and I'll put a link in the description. You want some sort of panel prep? I don't care what the brand is on it. If you don't have panel prep, isopropyl alcohol will work, but panel prep is probably better. So this is, you know, DIY detail panel prep. I counted yesterday, I have like 13 different panel preps in there. I could use any one of them. You also want a clean microfiber towel like the one sitting here on my shoulder. And you want some sort of like squeegee or card style thing. So this is what 3M would call a blue card. This is a diamond card. This is from a different manufacturer. I honestly don't, this is back from my tinting days. I don't even remember who makes this one. So you just need something like this that has an edge that you're going to be able to use to kind of stick the vinyl in where you want to go. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this after just washing your car, because oftentimes you're going to end up with like pockets of water under this trim, and it's going to kind of get sucked out by the vinyl, and you're going to end up having to fight that. In this case, I'm going to be washing this car today, but I'm doing this first. If you don't have one of those hard cards, you can go to most auto parts stores or Harbor Freight or Lowe's or Home Depot, and you can get a plastic razor blade like this. Sometimes they'll be black, this one's red, but you can get something like that as well, and you could use that in place of one of those. But I would say a hard card or something like that is going to be the best bet. You just want it to be plastic, not necessarily metal, because you're going to be running it across this edge, and you want to try to reduce the amount of scratching as much as possible. So the softer the piece of plastic, the better you're going to be. If you look at this piece of trim, and this is pretty representative of a standard piece of trim on a lot of cars. The Minis are similar to this, like in BMWs. I've done this on other brands and manufacturers of vehicles as well. What we're going to find is that there are pockets around this on all sides. So we've got a pocket right here. We've got a pocket right in here, kind of a gap between the metal and the rubber. We've got a pocket in here, again, like a gap between the metal and the rubber. This one is a little bit tighter because it's a water seal. And then we've got a pocket here in between the metal and the rubber. So basically what we want to do is we want to take the piece of vinyl, we want to overshoot all dimensions, and then we want to stick the blade of our knife into this gap right here, and we want to score the vinyl along that gap. And that allows you to kind of go through the vinyl and cut it cleanly without scratching up your surfaces or ending up with pieces where you've got silver showing. The top is going to be the hardest on something like this. The bottom and the sides are going to be easier. And typically when you're cutting on something like this, you kind of want to bring the blade out like that so that you're leaving as much of the vinyl around and you could wrap it underneath as possible. Let's just take a panel prep, wipe this down. I wouldn't do this in direct sunlight. I would also probably recommend you have a heat gun on hand. I will grab mine when we're doing this. And you just want to make sure that you get this bottom edge kind of as clean as possible. It's okay for it to have, you know, some sort of black or something there that maybe doesn't come out. Like I've got a little bit of crap here, but you want to make sure that it's not loose because that's going to stick on your vinyl and it's going to make it so your vinyl doesn't stick. I'm going to take a pair of scissors. I'm going to cut this a little long. So we're going to go here, just so that I don't have to fight with the roll. And then what we're going to do is we're going to peel this casing back and get a place to start. Now I like taking my finger on this, like this bottom corner, which I know isn't going to be permanent because I'm going to cut that off, and holding this against an edge like the bottom and just kind of going down that whole thing and using that as like my straight edge. So I'll pin this edge here and then we'll just kind of go down the middle like that. And again, we don't really need perfection on the application because we have, you know, extra on all sides. Okay, so now we've got it applied. Now I generally like to rub it in using a rag. So I find that the rag just gives me a little bit of extra softness. I'm not scratching it up with my fingers, and it tends to allow you to get it in these edges. And you want to try to get these edges as tight as possible so that you can see them and then trim around them. So now we've got this edge here that's like very tight. So you can kind of see right below it where we've got our rubber and our black or our metal trim. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut through this like that. And you see how I'm holding the knife where I've got a lot of blade out and I'm kind of holding it at this really, this angle that's kind of as close to the paint as I can comfortably hold the knife. That's going to lead to the lowest risk of scratching something. So what we're trying to do is not cut through the vinyl, we're just trying to score the vinyl. And then we can grab this piece here and we can peel this back, okay? And you might start seeing a little bit of separation on the vinyl, and that's okay. I'll show you why in a minute. Basically this vinyl has like a protective coating on it. So that looks good there. And then let's just make sure that we've got everything good there. And if you screw one of these up, you can redo it, but if you take your time, you should be able to be successful. So we've got that. Now I tend to go over to this side and do this one next. And then next, we've got our top and bottom edges. Now, I kept my bottom edge really close to where I want this to be, so I think that I can actually wrap this. And it looks like I can. So what I'm probably going to do is just use this card and push that down, and I probably won't have to trim the bottom edge. But on the top, we are going to have to trim. So I'm going to use this card to just kind of make this line as hard as possible. And then we're going to, again, take our knife and we're going to hold it at an angle along this edge. And it becomes fairly easy to do this. It looks like I've got a really steady hand, but I'm just actually resting the knife in this pocket and then putting, you know, a reasonable amount of pressure on it to score that black. So we can take our knife, we can grab this edge right here, and we can remove our piece of vinyl There we are. And now we've got our top edge nice and flush trimmed. And then the last thing that I want to do is I want to wrap the bottom. But the way that we're going to do that, first we're going to remove, there's a protective coating on this that you might have seen, like this little bit of white here or there. So there's a protective coating right here to help you while you're doing this. And we're going to grab a heat gun. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up this bottom edge, get it nice and warm, and then I'm going to wrap it all the way down. And many of these wraps are going to be self-healing, so if you end up with a couple scratches on it, oftentimes a heat gun will help you to take those out. The last thing I like to do is I like to take my heat gun. I like to just heat the entire thing. Nice and warm. Especially around the edges. Be careful with like this rubber that you don't melt something. But then we can take our rag and just run down it, make sure everything is in place. Got a little bit here. All right, so that's it, pretty simple. I just did one piece here. I've already done the whole other side. We're gonna do the rest of the passenger side as well. But sometimes you might grab dirt. Sometimes you might have a piece that doesn't stick. Sometimes you might pull water out. Those things are going to happen. I would not fight it. Pull it off, blow it out, or whatever you need to do, clean it off, and then try it again. This vinyl is really inexpensive. So I would just, I buy about double what I need to do the project. And then I tend to have a little bit left over. And worst case scenario, if a year from now I've got a piece that's peeling or coming off or something like that, I can redo it. There are obviously more permanent ways to do this. I could pull these off and I could paint them. I could have them powder coated. I could potentially have a professional wrap company do that. Maybe they'll do a little bit better job than me. But I find that if you take your time, this is something that you could pretty easily do yourself. Without putting a ton of effort into it. And the worst case scenario, like if you tried this and screwed it up and then ended up like not liking it and it came off, you wasted 30 bucks and an hour or two, and you can always pay somebody to do it. You can always take it to a wrap shop. But I will say that my last Mercedes I took to a wrap shop to have a couple pieces done. It was like the two roof rails, the rear, there's like a rear under piece that's maybe about this large, and then there's a front piece around the at the bottom of the bumper, and I had like 4 pieces done by them, and I want to say it was like 500 or 600 bucks they charged me to do it. And they did an excellent job, and I wouldn't want to wrap those roof rails myself, so like that was the reason that I brought it to them. But what I found is if you're doing a chrome delete and you can knock out half the car by yourself, they're going to charge you by the hour and by the piece. So you can typically, even if there are some pieces you can't do yourself, reduce the rate that you're going to pay somebody else to do it. So that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. Link in the description to the vinyl, the knife, some of these tools, and any company that sells like wrap supplies or tint supplies is going to carry these as well. So if you don't want to get them from Amazon, you can get them from somebody like that. These are just good things to have, honestly. I've had them for years. I use them occasionally for certain things like this, and it's really not hard to do. So, if we take a look at we'll get kind of a before and after here. You can see it's a pretty drastic difference. I really prefer the black. You can also buy matte black, and you can buy satin black finish. I do the gloss because I think the gloss matches a lot of the other things that are around the car, like this. So while I don't necessarily love gloss black, it fits this a little bit better, and you have some more options in gloss than you do in satin and matte. Here's a completed side. That I did a week ago. And one thing that is a little bit different on this side is I can't access the entire piece here. So what I did was I actually poked it in there, pushed it down with a tool, and then worked my way backwards to here. So that's just one thing that you can do a little bit differently. Slide it in, work it back, and just deal with what you can actually see. You know, and obviously I could have pulled that mirror off as well if I preferred, and potentially done that a little bit differently. I didn't think that it was necessary. You can't view any of it. So even if there is a little piece of silver aluminum under the edge, the worst case is I might end up with like a water issue or something at some point where the vinyl starts peeling back and I'll have to redo the vinyl. But again, like, I bought enough to do this twice and I haven't had to redo a section yet. So I will probably have half the roll done when I'm left, or I will probably have half the roll left when I'm done. Like I said, the link is going to be for 1.5 or 1.25 inches, whatever I used here. I would measure yours, and if it measures out to like 1/2 inch, I would get like 3/4 or 2/3 or something like that. Like, I would get something bigger than half. I would get something bigger than what it measures, but not like overly. You don't want to be dealing with like a 12-inch sheet. You want to be dealing with something that is close. And high quality is the key, because you're going to get that protective coating. You're going to be able to peel that off. It's going to allow air to come through. It's going to be more flexible. It's going to have more stretch, just in self-healing properties in general. You kind of get what you pay for with vinyl. So, you know, a roll should be about 20, 30 bucks, depending on the length that you get and the size that you get. So thank you for watching. Have a great day.